Let's start in the beginning. God created Adam and Eve. He would walk and talk with them and had a rich relationship with his creation. He always intended us to be that close and for him to be that accessible. However, Adam and Eve believed a lie that God didn't love them. They fell into the trap of the snake, ate the forbidden fruit, and suddenly everything changed. God's creation would start to unravel and come undone and go wrong. From now on, everything would die, even though it was all supposed to last forever. Adam and Eve had to leave their beautiful home and the everyday face-to-face contact with God. In any other story, it would be all over and that would have been the end. But not in this story. God loved his children too much to let the story end there. Even though he knew he would suffer, God had a plan, a magnificent dream. One day, he would get his children back. One day, he would make the world their perfect home again. And on that day, he would wipe away every tear from their eyes. You see, no matter what, in spite of everything, God would love his children with a never-stopping, never-give-up, unbreaking, always and forever love. And though they would forget him and run from him, deep in their hearts, God's children would miss him always and long for him, lost children yearning for their home. Before they left the garden, God whispered a promise to Adam and Eve. It will not always be so. I will come to rescue you, and when I do, I'm going to do battle against the snake. I'll get rid of the sin and the dark and the sadness you let in here. I'm coming back for you. And he would. One day, God himself would come. Everything was ready. The moment God had been waiting for was here at last. God was coming to help his people, just as he promised. But how would he come? He chose to come using a young girl who was engaged to a man named Joseph. One morning, this girl was minding her own business when suddenly an angel named Gabriel appeared, right there in her bedroom. When she saw the tall, shining man standing there, Mary was frightened. Gabriel said to her,
"You don't need to be scared. God is very happy with you."
"Mary, you're going to have a baby, a little boy. You will call him Jesus. He is God's own son. He's the one. He's the rescuer."
The God who flung planets into space and kept them whirling around and around. The God who made the universe with just a word. The one who could do anything at all was making himself small and coming down as a baby.
But it's too wonderful. How can it be true?
Is anything too wonderful for God?
I am God's servant. Whatever God says, I will do.
Sure enough, it was just as the angel had said. 9 months later, Mary was almost ready to have her baby. Now, Mary and Joseph had to take a trip to Bethlehem, but when they reached the little town, they found every room was full.
"Go away. There isn't any place for you."
Where would they stay? Soon Mary's baby would come. They couldn't find anywhere except an old, tumble-down stable. So they stayed there with the cows.
Boo!
And the donkeys.
Hee-haw!
And horses. And there, in the stable, amongst the chickens, and the donkeys, and the cows,
Boo!
in the quiet of the night, God gave the world his wonderful gift. The baby that would change the world was born, his baby son. Mary and Joseph wrapped him up to keep him warm. They made a soft bed of straw and used the animal's feeding trough as his cradle. And they gazed in wonder at God's great gift, wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger.
Oh, look how cute. His little fingers, his little toes. I could just eat him up.
What a sweet little baby. He looks just like you, Mary. I don't see any of my features, but that's cool.
Mary and Joseph named him Jesus, Emmanuel, which means God has come to live with us. Because, of course, he had. God's plan was unfolding. He sent his one and only Son to come to earth to bring relationship back. He longed for us to be reunited with him again, like in the beginning in the garden. He was like a proud new dad. He put a star in the sky, sent a chorus of angels to tell the local shepherds the good news, and with that same star, guided them to the stable to meet baby Jesus. Months later, maybe even years later, the wise men also followed that same star to meet Jesus. They brought gifts and worshipped him. Fast forward, Jesus grew up. Although he was tempted just like us, he lived a sinless life. He was God in the flesh here on earth. He loved well. healed the sick, cast out demons, showed that heaven could be seen here on earth. He knew the plan. Come as a baby, but the ultimate purpose was to die. Die on a cross for the sins of the world. That was the purpose of his life. He came so that we could live, truly live. He died a painful death, but 3 days later, he rose up from that grave. Jesus made access for us to walk and talk with God again, to have a life that partners with him on this earth. His final words to us were,
I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Go everywhere and tell everyone the happy news. Tell them I love them so much that I died for them.
It's the truth that overcomes the terrible lie.
God loves his children. Yes, he really does. Now everyone can come home to God. Death is not the end of you.
You can live forever with your Father in heaven because I have rescued the whole world.